Hey guys, Donna here from SkyHopper by Mobilicom. Today we are going to discuss the SkyHopper Pro V point-to-point web GUI. The web GUI is a web-based application that enables you to configure, change the configuration, and monitor the configuration of your SkyHopper Pro V units. We're going to walk through every page so you understand what each page does and what you can do with it. And if you need any additional information, you can always find it on our website at www.skyhopper.biz in the SkyHopper Pro V support section. There you can find a web GUI instructional manual. You can also find a UART to Ethernet connection guide, and of course you can find additional information on in the SkyHopper Pro V user manual. So we're going to go ahead, take a look, enjoy. Okay, so we're going to get started by configuring our remote aerial unit, and in doing so we're going to put in the corresponding IP address. So for the aerial unit, one thing to note is make sure that you are selecting the IP address that ends with 241. Okay, so we're going to go through each screen and give you an overview of each. So starting with the general information screen, the general information screen really gives you a snapshot of the current status of your link. So up at the top, you will see the version, the serial number, and basic information. Down below here, you will see the link status, if there is indeed a link, the throughput, and the temperature of the unit itself. The next section shows the configuration, the unit mode, the frequency at which it's operating, the ratio, and so on. The next section shows the GPS antenna data. And then finally, the video section shows the firmware version of the video card and serial number. The next screen is the video information screen. The video information screen is actually split into two sections. The top is with respect to the camera, and the bottom is with respect to the SD card. If you look at the top, in our case, we've connected an analog camera. So once a camera is connected, under the camera detected column, you should see the word yes. In addition, under the status column, if the camera is connected, you should see the word lock in order for the video to be able to stream. If the status is unlocked, please contact technical support for further assistance. The bottom section is with respect to the SD card. In this section, you can see whether or not you have inserted an SD card and if the SD card is recording. The SD card enables local recording ability onto the unit itself. The next screen is the basic configuration screen. At the top of the screen, you have the unit mode. We currently have a pre-configured unit that is configured as a remote unit. If you would like, you can change the configuration to controller unit by clicking on controller and applying the changes. The next section is the frequency section. Currently, you can select frequency manually only. However, in the near future, you will be able to automatically scan and select your frequency. The next section is the unit IP. The current unit IP is the default IP for the remote unit. Should you decide you want to change the IP address, you may do so by entering the numbers in the field below. The encryption section may be enabled or disabled. You can add your own password for an encryption key and apply the changes. And the final section is the language in which you want the web GUI to operate. In our case, we're doing English. Once you've made all your selections, apply the changes and you can move to the advanced configuration screen. The next section is the advanced configurations screen. At the top, you will see units of measurement. This is how you would like to see the units, whether they be in imperial or metric. Interference avoidance is currently disabled, so we'll move to frequency. In order to select the proper frequency, it's highly recommended to scan the frequency span Select the best frequency with the lowest RSSI reading. Further instructions will be explained in the scanning screen section. Select your TX power. For lab use, select a low TX power, and if you are operating in the field, select the high TX power. Select your bandwidth. Now, your bit rate will change, your bitrate options rather, will change based on your bandwidth selection. The next section is the UART section. This is the serial port configuration. There are several options. You can either select the disabled option, which disables the serial port, the UART to UART mode, where a serial port connection is present on both sides, or the UART to Ethernet mode, which can be either UART to Ethernet on the remote side or UART to Ethernet on the controller side. For more information on how to configure the UART to Ethernet setting, please refer to the UART to Ethernet connection guide. Once you have selected, you will select your baud rate. You can select baud rate up to 115 kilobits. And then the protocol. This section asks you to select the serial protocol. Please refer to the user manual for instructions on which is the best to use. Pairing is currently disabled. Once you have finished your selections, you can apply the changes. And below you will see a log. You have two options. You can either download an existing log, or you can save the current log locally. The next screen is the link monitor screen. This screen shows the RSSI and CINR readings of both channels. If there is a link, you will see an actual reading of both RSSI and CINR. If only one unit is on, you will only see an RSSI reading. Please note that RSSI readings of both channels must be within 10 dB of each other. If they are not, contact technical support. The throughput screen enables you to see the total throughput of the link on the top, and it separates the throughput of the downlink and the uplink. You'll notice that the downlink is noted with a green line, and the uplink is noted by a red line. The next section is the scanning screen. It is highly recommended to scan frequency span before selecting frequency. Frequency span is determined by the antenna you use. If you're using a common 2.4 GHz antenna, please scan within the antenna's defined bandwidth. Now, prior to beginning the scan, make sure that you've turned off the unit for which you are not scanning frequency. In our case, because we have connected a remote unit, we are turning off the controller unit. So let's do an example. We're going to place a start frequency of 2,380 megahertz and an end frequency of 2,520 megahertz. We will add a frequency step of 5, and then we press start. Now here you can see how long it will take, and this area will show you its progress. It's highly recommended to scan frequency span before selecting frequency. Frequency span is determined by the antenna you use. If you're using a common 2.4 GHz antenna, for example, please scan within the antenna's defined bandwidth. Now, prior to entering your information and beginning the scan, please make sure that you have turned off the unit that you are not scanning. In our case, because we're scanning a remote unit, you will want to turn off the controller unit. So the next screen is the video screen. Since we're using a remote unit, we will see information and adjust information for the encoder. Once we go to the ground unit, you will see information and adjust information for the decoder. Now, as you can see, the video screen is split into two. You have the HDMI configurations and the analog. Since we've connected an analog camera, we're going to make adjustments on the analog section. First thing that you'll want to do is select your destination IP. This IP address is actually that of the video stream destination. If you're using another Pro V unit on the controller side, you must enter the IP of that unit. If you're using a software decoder like a VLC media player, then you'll want to enter the IP address of the laptop or PC that you're using. You will also want to enter the port. If you want to stream the video, you will enable the streaming, and you will want to select your camera resolution. If you're using both HDMI and analog cameras, the resolution of one camera will affect the other because it divides the channel's throughput. Next, you will select the FPS, the frame per second. Commonly, you're selecting around 25 or 30 frames per second. Finally, you will select the video stream quality. Audio is currently disabled. If you would like to record, enable recording. You can also select the resolution, the FPS, and the quality. Finally, you can enable or disable OSD. OSD stands for on-screen display. If you enable an on-screen display, you can enter in whatever words that you would like in this section, up to 80 characters. You can also enable or disable the date and time on the video. Audio is currently disabled, and you can enable or disable diagnostics. Once you have finished, you can click Apply to apply the changes. The final section is the firmware update section. Here you can select a file for any firmware updates. In order to select the correct file, please refer to the user manual, and it will give you instructions based on the revision information. The revision information can be found in the General Information screen under Product on the top section. One final thing that I'd like to discuss, and that is the video information and video sections on the ground unit, because they will reflect the decoder mode. So I'm just going to log in with the IP address of the ground unit. In this section, the video information screen will be disabled. And you'll see it with a little note. But you can make adjustments to the video screen. Once you're in the decoder screen, if you have connected to a screen via HDMI, then you'll work under this section. If you've connected to a screen via an analog connection, then you'll work under the analog. For all intents and purposes, let's assume that we've connected to an HDMI screen. So we want to enable the screen. And then you'll want to select the destination IP. The destination IP is the IP address of the ground unit and the port. The port should be the same as you selected in the encoder section with the aerial or remote unit. Audio, as mentioned, is currently disabled. Once you have finished, you can apply changes, and then you can connect the monitor to the HDMI or analog output depending on what you selected. That's it.